Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
And thanks for joining us. Our top story tonight, damning new data has revealed a grim outlook for Greater Hobart tenants grappling with the highest rents in the nation. The annual affordability index has named our capital the least affordable city once again, with welfare organisations saying the situation is the worst they've seen it.
Desperate to ease the pain for the growing number of Tasmanians at breaking point.
I was talking to one of our emergency relief officers yesterday. She said of the 10 people she saw, 8 cried while she was meeting with them.
Support services have rallied to roll out another food van with the chance to secure a hot meal, just one challenge in the state's growing cost of living crisis.
The demand is enormous, especially around the rural areas. As the organisation, we've provided the van. We've also prepared to provide the meals.
Access to housing also remains increasingly difficult. The plight of the sector laid bare in the latest annual rental affordability index.
How it is going from bad to worse. And nowhere is it worse than in Hobart.
If the trend continues, Hobart will soon be the only capital city in Australia where affordability is below the critical threshold of 100, meaning a household with an average income of $85,000 will be coughing up more than 30% of their wage to put a roof over their head.
The Commonwealth has come fast out of the gates with the Housing Australia Future Fund. What we would like to see is that ramped up to where it's delivering 25,000 social and affordable homes annually.
Since 2016, the median rental rate has grown by 60% across all dwelling sizes, even trumping mainland cities like Sydney for the last 4 years when it comes to unaffordability.
And people's incomes haven't gone up by 60%, particularly people on low income and people who are relying on government pensions and payments.
Rents continue to outpace wages locally, with incomes significantly lower here than the national average. Concerningly, that gap shows no sign of closing anytime soon.
Stress in the community is just immense at the moment. People are just so strained in terms of meeting the basic needs.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanian Liberal MP Bridget Archer will cross the floor tomorrow to back a censure motion against Scott Morrison. The government will move the motion this week, condemning the former Prime Minister for his secretive takeover of multiple ministries. The Federal Liberal Party will not support the move, labelling it essentially a stunt. It will be the second time Mrs Archer has crossed the floor this year. The federal government is calling on Southern Cross Care to reconsider its controversial nursing plan. Tasmanian federal politicians, including Helen Polly, say the aged care operator shouldn't remove enrolled nurses from its workforce as they provide direct care to residents. The Senator and Cabinet Ministers will meet with affected nurses tomorrow. 175 of the 1,200 strong workforce are enrolled nurses. Southern Cross Care has declined to comment. Parliamentarians have cast an eye over the government businesses with annual scrutinies beginning. Today saw executives from Tascorp, Tasrail, Metro and the Motor Accidents Insurance Board front up.
This financial year it is more likely that the state will borrow less than it is indicated.
Committee hearings continue all this week, with Aurora Energy and Tas Racing among those to be held tomorrow. Tasmanian drivers have been asked to take more care at level crossings with a rise in the number of incidents. Train drivers reported a total of 44 last financial year, where drivers failed to stop or give way, up from 42 the year prior. 70% happened on the northwest coast, with hotspots in built-up areas. The curtain has fallen on the My State Bank Film Festival, with the final awards ceremony taking place in Hobart this afternoon. For 20 years, the event has celebrated the creativity of school and university students. This year's awards saw more than 300 films from across the country entered across 26 categories.
It feels really great to be part of that legacy of the festival, especially for the last one. Sitting up there and also seeing all the other fantastic films this year, it was an absolute great one to end on.
It was just brilliant, really. Absolutely brilliant to see. It was fun, it emotes well, you laugh, you enjoy it.
Mr Gates says discussions have begun about creating a replacement festival. Tasmanians will be able to learn how one of the country's most popular sports is played by people with impaired vision this weekend. A blind cricket event will be held on Salamanca lawns on Saturday, showcasing the sport. The rules of the game slightly modified to ensure safety.
The ball's been modified to actually be an audio ball, so it's got a rattle in it. So that obviously helps the location, the sensors to locate that.
You listen to see how far away it is from you, and then you either get on your knees and give it a sweep, or you just sit there, like stand up.
The state will be represented at the National Championships for the first time in Brisbane in February. For sheer determination, you can't go past Tasmania's next top shearer, who could soon be representing Australia. Sam Byers recently turned heads at the Sports Nationals, holding his own against the industry's heavyweights as he perfects a craft which runs in the family's blood.
Inside the pens at this Longford property, sheep sense the shears at the other end of the ramp. But those waiting to wrestle Sam Byers can count themselves lucky. They're under the watch of one of the state's finest wool workers.
You got a pattern that you shear, so you start off on the belly and move to the hind leg, and you just sort of want it to flow.
This manic yet methodical art form is a craft Sam's honed since he was just 8 years old. Now 23, all that experience is paying off. Sam recently made the final of the National Shearing Championships in Victoria and won the teams event alongside 3 other Tasmanians.
Keeping it nice and calm and getting around him without too much fighting. Got attitude, some of them, so that doesn't always go to plan.
He was within a woolly whisker of making the cut for the world titles, something he hopes to one day achieve. It shouldn't come as a surprise, Sam's a third-generation shearer.
Definitely a physical job, but yeah, it's probably another reason why we like it.
Top shearers like Sam will typically go through hundreds of sheep a day, perfecting an art which will hopefully impress a judging panel.
The challenge to compete against the best in the country, because it's the only place you'll get to come up against the top, you know, so that's mainly why they want to do it.
As a day job, it's not the easiest work, unless you're the sheepdog, but it is in demand.
A lot of the older ones are retiring, and there's probably not quite as many young ones taking it on, so yeah, there's definitely a big demand there for it.
A gig which could take you around the world, and you won't ever need a gym membership. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmania News.
To some breaking news, and the Royal Hobart Hospital has announced further visitor precautions from tomorrow. The Department of Health says it is seeing an increase of people entering with COVID symptoms. Visitors will be limited to 1 per patient and can only visit for a maximum of an hour, with exceptions on compassionate reasons. The hospital remains on level 2. Well, hundreds of friendly felines are looking for their forever home, with animal adoption centres around the state seeing an influx of kittens. But prospective pet owners are being urged to think twice before buying a 4-legged friend this Christmas.
'Tis the season of kittens. With adoption centres seeing a significant spike.
At the moment, Just Cats is at their busiest or peak in kitten season. So in the last 3 weeks, we've had 170 cats and kittens arrive into our care.
There is a kitten season and it's spring. So it's quite weather dependent as to when cats are giving birth to new kittens. We've just started to see kitten season here in Tasmania. It's a little bit later than usual.
Just Cats now has more than 260 felines in their care, putting extra pressure on staff and volunteers in the lead up to the festive season.
It is quite stressful, it's tiring. Most of the time with bottle feeding, we're bottle feeding every 3 hours, and that's through the night as well, so we're not getting a lot of sleep. Lucky we're all very tolerant of each other.
If you're in the market for a new furry friend, a shelter should be your first stop, but there are a few things to keep in mind if you're considering a companion for Christmas.
It's not a good idea generally to buy a pet for a Christmas present. Pets are not just for Christmas, we've all heard that saying, and most families need to make a conscious commitment to an animal that encompasses their whole of life care.
As we enter this season of giving, adoption centres are also calling for more Santa's Little Helpers.
The public can really help us with lots of areas, so whether that is volunteering, fostering or donating.
The perfect present this Christmas. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Well, Tasmanian hospitality venues have had a record-equalling year of recognition at the Australian Hotels Association National Awards for Excellence. 5 local venues have been crowned best in the country, with Sapphire Freycinet taking home Best Luxury Accommodation. Devonport Celebrations was named Best Retail Liquor Outlet, French-inspired Furneaux claiming Best Regional Restaurant, while newcomer The Tasman capped off the Apple Isles Awards with the coveted Overall Hotel of the Year.
2 Tasmanians are back training after striking gold at Oceania's largest sporting event for people living with an intellectual disability and autism. Competing in Judo, the pair is now preparing for a throwdown on the global stage.
It's a sport not for the faint-hearted. But for Phoebe Ladlow and Tobias Sampson, Judo is a passion they've enjoyed since joining Hobart Station Martial Arts Centre a few years ago.
I thought it was just fun enjoying it and having a nice time, meeting new friends.
I also like Judo for the aspect of throwing as well as wrestling.
Getting a grip of the ancient Japanese sport through training, they now have success to show. Phoebe won gold and Tobias took home silver at the Virtus Oceania Asia Games in Brisbane.
I was proud of myself because I had worked really hard to obtain that goal.
Their coach also with them as part of the national setup.
It's really awesome to have 2 Tasmanians on the team and 2 Tasmanians on the podium.
The movement, the largest in the world for people living with an intellectual disability. From fighting competitively to training with Japanese students, the competition also teaching entrants new skills for life.
Socialising in a group, it has given me better communication skills.
With Brisbane behind them, the dynamic duo are already looking forward to their next competition, targeting the World Games in France next year.
I reckon it'd be pretty beautiful and nice to see and meet other people over there.
It's the global games, so there's going to be more countries, and yeah, I think it'll be a really good experience.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmanians have been overlooked in the first round of the AFL draft. Devonport and North Launceston product Lockie Cowan is considered the state's top hope for finding an AFL home. He'll have another chance tonight when the draft resumes from pick 22. Aaron Cadman is this year's #1 draft pick after being snapped up by the Giants. Brisbane took Will Ashcroft at number 2. North Melbourne welcoming Harry Sheasel and George Wardlaw at 3 and 4. Hawthorn's top pick, Cameron McKenzie, at number 7. And Tasmania's football community is remembering one of the local Indigenous champions of the game. A warning to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander viewers, the following story contains images of a deceased person, that being Neil Maynard. The dominant defender of the 70s and 80s, Maynard played in 6 premierships and twice represented Tasmania. He is also a member of the Tasmanian Football Hall of Fame. His former coach, Peter Daniels, says Maynard's brilliance extended to his character off the field as well.
And there's his kick going back into the half-back line.
A great advocate for the Indigenous community, and I know that he took a lot of those kids under his wing. He was the complete player, being 6'2", very quick, beautiful mark, beautiful kick, incredible flexibility and quick reflexes.
Neil Maynard also holds the senior games record for North Launceston with 323.
Good evening. Hobart, Burnie and Devonport all 18 degrees today. Launceston and St Helens with our high of 20. Another cool day across the state. Friendly Beaches 19, Bushy Park 18, King and Flinders Island 17, Grove and Strawn 16 degrees and Lyre-Weenie 10. Now, here's the cloud situation with most of the cover over the west, but a bit sprinkling right over to the north-east of the state. Southern parts of Victoria and South Australia also with some cloud cover today. Active thunderstorm clouders over Queensland and the tropical north. Tomorrow, a weakening cold front crosses Tasmania. Highs positioned to our northeast and northwest, troughs to the west and north of the country. The winds west to northwesterly, 15 to 25 knots, tending west-southwesterly before dropping over the west and upper east, swells to 4 metres. A strong wind warning, that's from Tasman Island around the south coast to Low Rocky Point. Hobart tomorrow 19 and cloudy. Maybe a shower over Geefston, 18 the top and 17 the high for Bothwell, a cloudy day. 23 and partly cloudy for Launceston, Devonport up to 20 degrees and 22 for Cressy. Burnie expecting a high of 18 degrees. Cloudy there, showers for Strawn and 17, cloudy for Curry on King Island and 17 degrees. 21 for St Helens, partly cloudy for Swansea, 21 as well and 20 the top for Orford. UV a very high 10. Now, the first day of summer may not feel exactly that, with a cool cloudy day on the way along with a shower over the north and northeast. Mostly fine and partly cloudy weather on Friday, and on Saturday looking a little brighter with sunny weather expected over all regions, Launceston 25 and Hobart 23. 24 in Perth. Now that's the low tonight, warming up to 35 tomorrow. Sunny in Adelaide, partly cloudy for Melbourne, Canberra and Sydney, showers increasing over Brisbane. Fine at the moment, sunny in Hobart, 15. Right now in Launceston, 17 degrees, mostly sunny in Devonport and 15. That's the weather. Kim, what do you reckon?
I reckon the weekend looks good. Thank you very much. And that wraps up your local news for this Tuesday night. I'll be back later with updates. Thanks for joining us. Good night, everyone.